Welcome to the Cosmetic Podcast.
This podcast amplifies the topics you want to hear about.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
Globally minded and locally focused.
I'm Keith Benson.
And I'm Rodrigo Ross.
So today we're going to talk about volunteer, not voluntold.
Nice. The importance of volunteerism for younger generations, right? Because we are finding out in droves that young people absolutely have the appetite and the desire to be involved and be engaged, but you got to come at them a little differently to kind of get their attention.
Yeah, right, because they want to do, and sometimes I think we get caught up in being an adult as if we just don't remember, what it was to be a teenager anymore.
Right,
I mean, for me, that wasn't, only about 4-5 years ago, and so I recall, those days.
Well,
yes.
Okay. Well, so let's just put this thing into perspective, because clearly you don't have any if you think you were a teenager 4 or 5 years ago. So when we're talking about younger generations, every generation has a name, right?
Uh-huh.
So the boomers or the baby boomers, they're people that were born between 1946 to 1954. The boomers too, right? So there are two cohorts of this. People born between 1955 and 1965. Gen X, those are the folks that were born between 1966 and 1976. Then you have your Gen Y. Those are the folks that were born between 1977 and 1994. And then Gen Z, your folks that were born between 1995 up into 2012. So we're primarily talking about your Gen Y and your Gen Z folks. How do you really engage these young folks in volunteerism? And you, sir, you don't fit into any one of those categories, but it's fine.
I'm going to give you my expertise opinion because of my age being so close. But one of the things is that we can't take young people for granted.
Right.
And so we have to be able to give them a voice in the process.
Yes.
There's some things that are already baked out, and those things are fine. But if we truly are trying to target that generation right there, we have to be able to include their voice in it.
Absolutely. And the reality is that young people are energetic, they're passionate, they're flexible. Like, these are all of the qualities that we really do look for in volunteers. So it just makes the most sense that you would absolutely and intentionally include them in your volunteer base.
Right, because the millennials right now, they are all grown up, but then there's this Gen Z, they're their successors, right? Yeah. And so they have this high interest into saving the world. Uh-huh. And so when we get into these passionate projects in our community, whether that is around climate control, whether that's around cleaning up the neighborhood, we got to be able to include that voice in, like, how do you guys want to be a part of this process right here? Yeah. What is that end result that you get to do? One program that we have in the YMCA is Youth in Government.
Yes.
And I've often thought that, man, that program, as great as it is, it's in this mock sense that they go through this process. Uh-huh. But what if we flip that to be able to give them this space where they actually can carry their debates out to a place that it plays out into a community.
Some real world application.
Right.
Huh? I love it. And I will tell you, that Youth in Government program and really helping those young people find their footing in civic engagement can be a game changer, because so many young people, they have these incredible ideas of how they want the world to be or how they want things to look and to feel and to operate. But they just need the structure and to understand the systems in which they have to operate. So that Youth in Government program, I am a fan from the years ago as a program director when I had an opportunity to work with some young people. I was convinced.
Because their ideas that they have, they can go out and volunteer in these spaces to make that change happen that they really want to see. They say that 77% of high school students see volunteering as a way to gain experience.
Absolutely.
And so they have this opportunity to get this kind of real world experience right now as a high school student to be able to carry that out. I know for my kids, we kind of pushed that, and end results of that is that it truly helped them with being able to get into college and looking at their resumes. It was every summer you had to have a volunteer job. I remember my daughter, she used to volunteer at the zoo, and her job was just picking up poop. And she really enjoyed that. I was like, okay. Okay.
But so it's funny you say that. So, I love a good article or some good research, right? So Purdue University did a study to find out if there is some link between family influence around volunteering and young people's desire to volunteer, right? So this is what they found out. This was a study that they did in the early 2000s. They found out that families who volunteered with their children while they were young had young adults who were more apt to continue to volunteer into young adulthood. Like, there is absolutely a correlation between parents introducing this idea to the young folks, and then as these young people grow into adulthood and they mature, they keep going, like, it's ingrained. It becomes a part of who they are. They also said that there are benefits to the youth. Children begin to see how lucky they are. They become a positive influence on their peers. They find it to be fun, and it actually helps shape their value system and strengthens it because they get to volunteer.
Yeah, so Voluntold kids, they said that 60% of Gen Z, these young people, they want to make a difference in their society. 76% of them are worried about the planet. There's 30% that have donated to charities. I know part of my spiel each year with our annual campaign for the Y, I call my kids to say,
you dug in their pockets?
No, because I want them to learn about what philanthropy is all about.
Money, though.
Well, it's for the annual campaign. It's about teaching a cause.
That's what you're saying. It's about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not saying they have a choice in the matter.
They can say no?
Yes, they have a choice in the matter. But the way we teach them is that we want you to be able to give back to the community. We want you, what is your cause? What do you care about?
I love it.
With our annual campaign, absolutely, because they volunteered in the Y program from Healthy Kids Day. Now, I will say there's some situations that go back to our topic.
Okay.
It's volunteered or voluntold.
Voluntold.
Now, when I need a little extra help, it was more voluntold. But I would say the spirit of it all is that they've always been able to come out and get involved in the different activities.
Yeah.
And to a place that, they've got up with me in the morning for turkey trot.
Yes.
And that's
I remember seeing those babies out there in the freezing cold, like, oh, you babies.
And that wasn't voluntold. That was like, hey, let's come
go.
out. And so our young people today, they want to be able to get involved. We have to do our part to be able to introduce them to different opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, and so there are a couple of things that you need to do specifically to make sure that you have the best experience and you really are maximizing young people in your volunteer roles. Number one, you have to recruit through existing relationships, right? Do you have an all-star young volunteer or a young person that you engage with? Ask them to tap into their networks. You have to offer shorter, more flexible opportunities, right? Like, young people don't want to get involved in something that's going to take 2 years. Like, give me something I can see some immediate impact, I can have some fun, and we can make a difference, right? You have to reach out to the programs that they're involved in. So we were talking about youth and government, with an amazing pool of folks that the YMCA already has access to, that we can engage those folks and ask those young people to participate and volunteer. You have to allow for position sampling, right? Like, this is a really great learning opportunity for young people. Allow them to kind of experience different roles, different positions, and different levels of authority and influence. You have to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. Don't try to get them in to do the stuff you don't want to do, right? Like, I understand baby girl had a good time at the zoo. I don't know if I'd have picked that job, but if she liked it, I loved it, right?
There you go.
You got to focus on the cause, especially younger folks. They really want to understand, how is the world going to be different because they are volunteering and they are helping you. You got to have a social media presence, right? That's the way they communicate. That's the way they see things. That's the way they engage. And you got to get back to them quick. You can't send them, hey, I need your help, and then they don't hear anything else from you for another 5 or 6 days. Like, you got to be quick with your responses. You got to get in there and keep that conversation going.
Yeah, and one of the big things I've seen in some of the research that's out there that shows that volunteering helps with a teen's mental health.
Oh, wow.
It's this place place of helping them to build their self-esteem through that process of volunteering.
Yeah.
Because it's a place also is that it helps young people to widen their social circle. And so they're able to meet not only other young people that may have a liking to what they like also, but it's also this adult world out here also. And so you're blending these, multiple generations together in order to create this great experience. And because we have this opportunity to bring young people into this space where they can explore and they can discover different interests that they may have in order to be able to serve our community all together. And that part, they're gaining this real world experience, through volunteering. And the hope is that you grab hold to that as a young person, as a teenager, and then when you get into your adult world, now we're talking about impacting boards with individuals who really care about the community.
Yeah, I definitely can tell, thinking back over the operations, you can tell the work difference, the experience, the kind of dedication and the discipline in work with your young people who had some volunteer experience and with your young people who had not, like some of the things that you have to kind of help them navigate through in terms of coming to work on time and being dependable and, working hard and that kind of stuff. You don't have to do as much with a young person who has had a number of volunteer experiences because they get it, right? They got a chance to develop that skill set.
And it's also putting them at a place that they're not getting in trouble. Right. Like, I know that if you're here for these 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday that you're not out, doing something else. And so then you see all these other risk behaviors, that are decreasing because young people are involved in more specific, positive activity out in the community.
You're keeping them busy. Right? Like you're keeping them busy. They don't have time to get into the other stuff. So the bottom line is this: do not discount the amazing opportunity and the pool of talent that you can access when you engage young people in volunteering. It is absolutely a myth that younger generations don't like to volunteer, they don't like to be involved, and they're fairly apathetic. Like, that is absolutely not true. Some of the game changers, the next level CEOs and leaders of great strategies are right there at your fingertips in a youth volunteer.
And so one of the big messages that you have for nonprofits is that, look, make it easy for young people to get involved.
Make it easy, period.
Right? Yes, we got to do the background checks and all that, but once they get into it, don't overthink it in such a way that you're going to discourage the young people from being involved.
And make it so cumbersome. It's just because the reality is, would you do those same things with an older adult, right? So the same, things that you would do with an older adult and the same respects for their time and the same boundaries that you would have, you should absolutely have that for your younger volunteers.
And then don't be afraid to make it fun. Make that environment.
They gonna make it fun for you. You're gonna learn a dance or two.
Right.
You're gonna learn
play some of their music.
Would you dance? If they played?
I would dance because I know how to dance.
Don't think you now. Now?
Look, this is about volunteer, not voluntold. Okay. But we got to be able to make this environment when young people come in there, especially if you're targeting that group. Make sure that atmosphere is one that they will enjoy. And then ask them the question of what would the atmosphere look like if they were to plan it. Don't just sometimes plan it because, that adult fun versus that youth fun, that looks a little bit different there.
So I feel like some young person probably told you, they probably coached you on this. Did you try to make it fun? And
because my lead is when I got young people involved, I want to make sure that they have it experience, because I didn't have those experiences growing up.
Okay.
And so a lot of times my mindset goes to this place of, one, what would have enjoyed, at that time right there. But I also lean into asking the young people, because I absolutely think that our young people, not just our future, they are our today, really.
Absolutely.
And so, how do we involve them? How do we get their voice into the matter in order to make things great?
And how do we prepare them? Because even though I'm I'm nowhere near retirement because I'm only 29 years old. At some point, though, I do want to start. I see you over here trying to do math and carry the 1.
Times
That's
two,
so inappropriate
times.
right now.
Okay.
But I do want to make sure that things are in good hands at such a time that I decide, okay, I'm bowing out. We're going to pass the baton. And so volunteering with young people is an amazing way to help them gain those skills to be the best version of themselves onward into adulthood.
Well, you know what? I want to give a shout out to Irene Johnson, one of our listeners who passed this topic on to us to be like, how do you get young people engaged into volunteering? And what an important topic today. We're around, this election time right now, and we've heard from so many different young people about leaning their voice into the different conversations. We got to be able to do that in this volunteer space right here to make our communities, to make our states, to make our country, make our world just a better place, because absolutely our volunteers from the young people perspective, have a say in this whole matter.
Well, thank you, Irene Johnson, for providing an amazing topic, and thank you for listening to Cosmetic,
where our conversations are
globally minded, and locally focused.
Give us some feedback. Tell us what you like to volunteer in at ymcadallas.org/Cosmetic.
And as always,
stay dynamic,
stay energized,
stay Cosmetic.